All right. I believe we are live.
We
And
share, we're using a fancy new platform.
yeah. So happy New Year, everybody. I know that was like last week, but happy New Year. This is
First
the
time
second.
we've talked to them since New Year, so
Yeah. And now we are simultaneously broadcasting these lives on several different social media channels. So whether you're on LinkedIn or in one of our Facebook groups or Instagram, YouTube, we are broadcasting this all live. So hope you're seeing it.
up in our technology game.
So I'll just go ahead and get started. So my name is Shantae Marquez, and I'm with my fellow Profit Network coach, Carrie Campbell, and we are the Dog Gurus. The Dog Gurus help pet care businesses launch, grow, and profit through our online business courses and coaching. We also provide pet care staff training systems to make the business owner's life much, much easier. What makes us unique at the Dog Gurus is that we are a collective of pet care business entrepreneurs who have wanted to really give back to the community and help share our expertise and knowledge to other pet care business owners out there. So all of the coaches have own or operate their businesses currently or have owned and operated their businesses at one time. So we understand your challenges because we've been there and we want to help. So today we are going to be talking about setting yourself up for success in 2024. And setting yourself up for success in 2024 involves strategic planning, adaptability, and a focus on key areas. So today, Carrie and I will share some tips to help position your business for success in the upcoming year. And we'll focus on areas like financial management, customer-centric approach, loyalty programs, and just employee well-being. So by focusing on these key areas, you can position your business for success in 2024 and beyond. So, Carrie, why don't you go ahead and get us started?
Wonderful. Well, thank you. I'm excited that we are able to provide some insights on how you should kick off your year. I know from a business perspective, sometimes it's overwhelming to think about everything we want to put in place, but having a checklist is a great way to get started. And our checklist has some key categories that Shantae mentioned. So I'll go ahead and kick us off with the financial management side. And really that is taking a look and reviewing all of your financial statements, your balance sheet, your cash flow statement, your P&L or profit and loss from 2023, and really looking at what your success and areas that may need improvement were for the prior year. Then from there, you can take a look at any maybe outstanding invoices that you have, and making sure that all of those are finalized, and then that you're able to start a plan for a budget for 2024. We are big proponents of having a budget because this is going to give you something to measure yourself against as you perform throughout the year. So working to have a budget in place for the coming year is a fantastic financial management tip. Any questions on that? I did put in the comments that if you can hear and see us, please respond so that we know that we are live on the multiple platforms. So if somebody could let us know, that would be fantastic. Otherwise, Shantae, do you want to start talking about goals?
Yeah, and you know what? I think so we all know first quarter of the year in our industry is, oh, hi, Tina. I just talked to her today too, actually. um, so we had a really great discussion. But so as we all know, first quarter for our industry is a little bit soft. That's really the slowest time of the year. So it's actually the perfect time to be out there and setting your goals, looking at your processes, refining your systems, and getting them set and ready before April hits. Because, when everybody starts to get their tax returns, it's like vacation is game on, right? So, and then we all of a sudden get busy next month, the next month, the next month, just, the year is on. So, but yeah, financial planning, I think it's a really great time to look at what you did last year and start forecasting and doing your budgeting for this year.
Perfect. I also recommend when you start looking at your goals that you set personal goals as well as business goals. That's going to help you set yourself up as well as setting the business up for success in the year. We are always preaching about using SMART goals, and SMART is an acronym for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. So you want to make sure that what you're setting is something that you are able to track the progress of, and you can accomplish it within a set amount of time. So we like to see people make quarterly goals. And those quarterly goals may actually be smaller tasks that are assigned to an overall goal that's for the entire calendar year. But using that SMART goal structure is a great way for you to be able to hold yourself accountable, as well as holding your team accountable if you've delegated part of that goal to them. And again, setting up your kind of career, personal development, relationship, or health goals. I know this is the time of the year where everybody sets those New Year's resolutions, but sometimes it's easier to not set a resolution, but actually set a goal that's achievable and how you document it out. Again, with that, you also want to look at some adapting of positive habits, things that you can change in small increments that will grow to become a bigger habit that you can stick with on a daily basis. Prioritizing well-being for yourself as well as your staff is a great way. Again, that adaptability and mindset change, and then remembering to celebrate your progress, because that may be a very small achievement that you've made, but you want to celebrate those little victories, because that's what keeps you motivated to continue to work on your overall goals.
Yeah, I think that's really important, to celebrate the small victories, as well as when you were mentioning the SMART goals, because I know it can be really overwhelming to think about the whole year at once and, oh my gosh, what do I have so much to accomplish, or how am I going to be able to do that? And so the best thing that I could say is really breaking it down into small achievable goals. So, what's your overall main one or two goals for the year? And then how you can accomplish that, and maybe what's your monthly goals or weekly goals you can even set if you need to break it down that much. But really quarterly, it's like yearly and quarterly, and then break it down from there is very, very helpful. But it also, celebrating the small wins is really important to keep yourself motivated, to keep your mindset in the right direction, and to help keep your staff feel valued and appreciated. Because I know sometimes, at least this is how I am. When I was running my business, I was hardest on myself, and
Absolutely.
I wanted to, do the best I possibly could. And sometimes I just needed to take a breath and realize I am doing good. Don't be so hard on yourself, Shantae. You're doing awesome. And I had to filter that out through my staff.
Yep, that's great. I think about setting habits and how tiny little changes can become something so much bigger. And this is going to be silly, but I was talking to a friend of mine who's a dental hygienist, and we were talking about achieving better dental health. And seriously, she was like, okay, get up and brush your teeth at the same time every day. And if you're not somebody who flosses, get in the habit of flossing maybe every other day until it can be every day, or, in the mornings and in the evenings. But each time you just make that tiny little adjustment, it becomes a habit over a period of time. And then it's second nature. So, same thing applies if it's how you want to calendar block, because you're looking at, I need to achieve certain things for my goals, and I need to set aside the time to work on that. So if that's the case, then look at that technique of calendar blocking. But anytime you can set something up that's a small habit, that's easy to change one day at a time, it can build and become an overall habit that you extend throughout the year.
Yeah, I was just had our mastermind meeting with my clients from Profit Network, and one of them is Virginia and Jamie from Barkside Lodge, and their big, huge overall goal for this quarter is to really get their SOPs in place, which we all know what a huge job that is. And it's been overwhelming, and they've had that as a goal, for several months now. But what we decided to do is to break it down like, okay, let's try to achieve one or two SOP instructions per week, or videos, or whatever it is. And when you look at it it's like, okay, that's totally attainable. We can do that. And so they're really excited to get that going for this quarter. And I'm excited to see how it turns out.
That's also something that you can get your staff involved with, because if they're going to do their SOPs in short videos, Sometimes your younger staff are really good with their cameras on their phones, and they can record those show, kind of TikTok videos, but you're going to get those individual tasks recorded faster if you delegate, because that is something that a subordinate or a lower team member of would be able to record for you.
Yeah, I want you to talk a little bit more about the customer centricity, prioritizing customer satisfaction with your brand loyalty. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. I think this is a great time to take a look at how you are delivering your services to your customers. I was going to say employees, but in a way, they can be customers too if they're bringing their own personal pets. So by taking a look and prioritizing that satisfaction and engagement, what are you currently doing? What worked last year and what didn't? And then make sure that you're fostering that customer-centric culture. So once you kind of outline what's working or how you want to implement things, making sure you're emulating that to your staff so they are in turn emulating that same customer-focused culture to your clients when they come in. You can definitely segment your client base and look to identify them by their demographics or their behaviors, their purchase patterns, what's their preferences. Are they maybe a customer that's only using one of your service lines? And how can you target grooming or daycare to a lodging client? And making sure that you're offering all of those different services to each of your clients. And gather feedback from them. Definitely want to accept their feedback and make sure that when you're reviewing things, it'll either bring something to your focus that may need attention and may need some improvements, or it's a way for you to hear positive comments that you can share with your staff that keeps them going, keeps them focused on that culture of customer focus, centricity. You definitely want to actively seek feedback, and that could be a direct survey that you're doing, but having them give you feedback on the way you provide your services, any products that you may be selling or products that you're using, and what is kind of that overall customer experience that kind of leads into that customer mapping, if you will. And I know, Shante, you know a lot more about that whole customer journey, but kind of getting that focus in line with the culture that you're trying to emulate to your staff and to your clients.
Yeah. So, and really what you need to do in order to kind of kickstart this whole strategy is that you have to identify your business mission and core values, because once you have those set, then it makes it very clear how you are going to operate from there. One other thing I want to talk about, because it was a really big topic in our Profit Network Q&A. A lot of pet care businesses, we were asked, like, what is the number one expense throughout all the members in our group? And they were talking about payroll, how payroll has really gone up huge in 2023 and been the biggest expense that they've had to deal with, and it's really cut into the profit margins. And you mentioned cross-selling or cross-promoting your services to your clients. So one way, not only can, obviously bringing in new customers is a great way to do that, but another way to really compete with your increasing costs is to increase your revenue per pet that comes in. And the way to do that is by offering additional services. And it could be something as small as just a small add-on when they come in for daycare. Would you like a licky pad? Or would you like a stuffed Kong? That's $5 or something like that. But, I think people are going to have to start to get a little bit more creative and a more assertive and use the power of suggestion with their customer service staff, just by when somebody checks in, they just simply suggest an add-on of some sort. And I think
That's something that you can create a competition around too. So you can pick an add-on for the week. If say you wanted to focus on, licky pads, and then it's something that could be added to lodging. It could be added to daycare. It could be added to grooming. It's an enrichment aspect that can go into many different service lines that you're offering. But if you have that front end staff, or if you have staff that rotate through and they have that as a competition, who's going to sell the most add-ons for licky pads in, this particular week? And then they can get a bonus based on whoever has the highest percent of sales in that particular add-on. So you can make some of it a competition that just kind of feeds the drive amongst the staff, and it will also increase your revenue. We've had a lot of people who say, I've had somebody coming for lodging or for daycare for years and had no idea we did grooming. Why not? Why hasn't that been something that is a suggestive sell by your front desk staff? So making sure that you are cross-marketing all of those different services to the existing clients that you have is a great task to focus on for 2024.
Yeah, and if you are going to do a contest, I really suggest that maybe you take a quick survey on what your staff values as a prize. Because, I made the mistake where I thought, offering this gift certificate would be great, but they were like, it didn't really motivate them. So one thing I learned is just do a quick survey of what they really value and what they want.
Motivates them.
Yeah. And then utilize that. And if you find that your staff isn't individually competitive, then make it a team goal versus a personal goal when you do those competitions. That's a little tip.
Yeah. I love those tips.
Yeah.
Another way that you can just increase the participation from your clients is to have some sort of incentive or loyalty program, whether that's something that's done by points, that's tracked through your POS system. I've seen people who have apps for their business and they have, some way that whether it's scanning of a QR code, but every time that they come to your lobby and they check in, they scan their QR code and it gives them a loyalty point. So some ways that you can keep your clients engaged and having them earn some sort of reward for their loyalty of coming in and using multiple services is another thing to potentially add for 2024.
Yeah. So the other thing I wanted to talk about was really, let's to dig in a little bit more on the finances. And it has to do with, the increasing expenses. But if you haven't raised your prices in the last 6 months to a year, it's really time, because it's just so expensive to operate a business these days. That in order for you to succeed and to continue to grow, you got to do it. And I know it's really scary. And we have a lot of fear about making those moves, but every customer that we've encouraged to do this has always come back with a feeling like, oh, it wasn't that bad. Why didn't I do this sooner?
Earlier, right?
But
can't count how many times I've heard that.
Yeah, but really with your forecasting and your budgeting that you're planning on doing, or that you did last fall when you're supposed to do it, you're like me, I was always a little late and did it when it got slow. But you could start to play around with those numbers and see how doing a 5% or a 10% increase is going to affect your profit margins and how it might help with things.
Yeah. I was just on a growth intensive group call and we were talking about how many of them had done price increases for the year. And one of our members who's actually in Canada said that the average in the industry up there was 9 to 13%. So, that's a fairly decent increase. But I think in some places we're seeing 15% increases based on the mandatory minimum wage increases that are happening across the country. And then just overall supply costs. I mean, supply costs have really skyrocketed in the last couple of years. So we need to take into account all of those things that dig into our profit margin and make adjustments accordingly. And the other aspect too, is if you're looking at wow, I just lost my train of thought. Shantae, go.
Well, what I was also going to say, if you do have a lot of fear about adjusting your pricing and doing like an overall price increase, then start with just a department. Start with, one section, see how that feels, see how the response is. I guarantee the story in your mind is going to be much worse than what the outcome really is. And I'm not going to like sugarcoat it. Look, there's always going to be a couple upset customers when you do things like that. And you're going to have a little bit of attrition. I mean, that just happens with any type of price increase, but it's not going to be as dramatic as you think. And if you do have those upset customers, look, you can always reach out to them and create a plan where you grandfather in some pricing for a certain amount of time. I don't say forever. I say just look, hey, we really value you as a customer. We don't want to, not care for fluffy. So, for the next 3 months, we're going to allow you to continue with the prices from last year. Something that simple. You can always deal with that on a one-on-one case. But
Yeah.
overall, I mean, I just really encourage everybody to do it if you haven't done it.
It's funny. Now I remember what my train of thought was, and that's when you're talking about the fear behind it. For some reason in this industry, we seem to have to apologize for rate increases. That we have some trepidation about making that change. Where if you look at any other place that you go, going back to my whole dental analogy, if you go to the dentist, they're not going to give you 50% off the second kid. I mean, they're just going to charge you the same rate for both of your children and for yourself. So the discounting and the kind of apologizing for having to raise your rates is not something that really needs to be a focus of yours, because we don't get knowledge or any kind of announcement that you go to the gas pump and it's 20 cents higher than it was last week, or that you go to the grocery store and the price of fruit is higher than it was before. We just don't ever see that, and it's just commonplace that prices fluctuate, prices go up, and as a consumer, we just have to pay whatever that price is. I'm not saying that you shouldn't just not acknowledge that you're doing a price increase, but I don't think it has to be a really big deal. I think that you can make a price adjustment at the beginning of the year, and 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 people will accept it. And like you said, Shante, you may want to start out by just raising your lodging prices or your daycare prices, and then in 6 months, let's look at, okay, so my grooming prices and my other service lines, my training prices are going to go up mid-year, and not just doing a big wham, 15% across the board for all service lines at one time. That may be a way that you want to focus on it.
Yeah. And prepare your staff to, have to answer questions about it. So whenever I did it, I had like little, like 2, 3 sentence, script that I wrote for them. So, and I practiced and we basically role played with them. And sometimes I'd have fun and play like a mean customer. And of course it'd make them laugh, but
Yeah.
it's kind of, I just wanted them to know that, look, I understand if that happens, and it's not the end of the world if someone is going to be, not kind to you, but prepare your staff for them. And if they have hesitation on it, then I would, explain to them and talk to them that, look, in order for them to continue growing in their role with the business, price increases need to come with the job. So I need to come with the business. So make sure you prepare them and talk to them and get them well versed on how to respond to questions.
And segue. One of the things that you can do to have fun with your staff while they may be learning and having to come up with ways that they're communicating with clients about the price increase is to sign up for the daycare games, because that is always a fun event for your staff to go through. And when they go through the daycare games, they actually work a little bit more directly one-on-one with the dogs, and it helps build their leadership skills and their confidence with working with dogs. But it also gets the dogs to behave better. And when that happens, that trickles over to the clients, and they see that their dog is doing something new. Like their dog is suddenly sitting at every door waiting to have a release word so that they can go outside or go through a specific gate. So anytime that you can do that, you can let your staff know, we're doing this, we're increasing the how we deliver these services, we're increasing the value of the service. So the clients may need to pay more, but this is why. And so it helps to kind of solidify that with the staff and their perception of why price increases happen. The daycare game registration is open, and Shante has posted the link to register. It opened on Monday the 8th, and it goes through January 25th. The events actually begin in February, and there are 3 events if you're not familiar with it. There's the recall event, the group sit, and then the gate boundary. They will one event per week, so it does go the whole month. And those events are really fun, and they get to compete against others in the industry. We accept 100 facilities within the daycare game, so do go and register if you are interested, because we do kind of sell out, if you will, even though there's no fee to register, but we do fill up. and it's always a fun thing to participate in. There's 3 different categories based on the size of your facility. There's also 3 different levels based on the experience of your staff. So if you are a small facility and you have 3 staff members and one of them is brand new, they would be a novice. And then say somebody's been with you 6 to 8 months, they've gone through their probationary period, but they haven't sat in that role for a full year, they would be an intermediate a participant. And then there's the advanced handler category. So you've got those 3 different categories. So they are competing with like individuals from the same size facilities throughout the groups that are competing. And then at the end of each week, depending on what their score was, they either earn a gold, silver, or bronze medal. So very much like the Olympics. That's where it started back in 2014. So we've been doing this for quite some time, and it's always a really fun time for the staff.
Yeah, and the videos and pictures are great. I love to watch them. And before we get off of the new year, new start, we do have a free checklist for people if you want to download that. So we're going to offer a free pet care business New Year checklist. And I'm going to go ahead and put the link in the chat for that. And that's really, will cover a lot of things that Carrie and I spoke about during this Facebook Live. So let me go ahead. You can just simply go to this website and be able to download the checklist. And that will be really helpful to help you start your year off with a bang.
Yay.
And lastly, I will also talk about the 2024 Business Breakthrough Workshop. It is the event of the year for pet care business owners. And the Dog Gurus, we're putting it on. It's going to be a blast. And it is a workshop style. So we're not going to just sit there and lecture you all day. We're actually going to break out into small groups and actually do exercises and things like that. So it's a 3-day workshop. It starts on Tuesday and it goes through Thursday. That's April 9th through the 11th. And it's in Denver, Colorado. So I'm excited to go there, go back to Denver, be close to Carrie. Carrie doesn't have to travel too far. Yeah, but go on.
Oh, I was just going to say, we have a fabulous keynote speaker, Amber Burkhalter from Amber Burkhalter Consulting, will be joining us as our keynote speaker. Amber has been in the industry for years. She started out in her early 20s as a dog trainer, and then opened her canine coach facility in Atlanta, Georgia. She sold a few years ago, so she is living the consulting / retirement life. Super proud of her. She had that business for close to 20 years, maybe even a little bit more. I apologize, Amber, if I got that number wrong. But she has a lot of experience to share with all the pet care business owners and leadership team working on different projects and that for the keynote speakers. So then we have several other speakers as well as some sponsors that will be joining us. So it's going to be a fabulous event, and we're really excited to have as many people come and participate.
Yeah, and she's just has a lot of energy and a great speaker. And I always enjoyed her presentations when she was giving them for the Dog Gurus. So you surely will not want to miss out on that. Yeah. So last thing, I'll invite you to join our Grow Your Pet Care Facebook group. I'll go ahead and put that link as well in the chat. But it is a space for pet care business owners to learn from each other, to ask questions, just to know that you're not alone. You're not the only one going through whatever challenge you're going through. It's a great community. We just have 2 rules: be nice and no selling in it. And let me go ahead and post that. And yeah, everybody, thank you for joining us.
Oh,
have a great day. Yeah, we'll see you soon. Bye.